and God is good. You need to return to the Father, and you'll see within you, he will fight the battle for you. And he will fight it without, because he will show you how to deal with it, and you will have no fear. Love God with all your heart, all your soul, all your might, along with nothing else. Nothing else means yourself, your children, your wife, your things, your ego, your reputation, and all that. You can't care about any of that. The children of anger will use it to control you. But if you love God, he will renew your mind, and none of those things will be before him. And so when they go after you, oh, well, you may take my body, you may take my things, but you're not going to take my soul. And that's a true reality. I read or heard that some Republicans are starting to pull their advertisements from Google or whomever, right? Because so many conservatives are being shut down, discriminated against, shadow banned, and all that kind of stuff. So conservatives are starting to fight back. It is happening to us too. I'm just taking it one day at a time. But you can go to jlptalk.com and find all the ways to support us. You can check out rebuildingdemand.com and support our nonprofit organization. You can call 800-411-BOND, 800-411-2663. And don't forget to like, subscribe, follow, share, and study. And also, we have thefatherstate.tv. Ring the bell. Isn't he Mexican?
Colombian.
He calls himself American.
What is this?
Anchor Baby.
And in this corner, it's the American Anchor Baby.
Daddy's home.
That's an offensive term. People find that hurtful.
You mean it's not politically correct? Excuse me. I'll use the word anchor baby. You know, he's an anchor baby in Canada.
Tell him we still rolling with Trump, too.
Anchor baby, the whole thing sounds horrific. You're just making it sound like immigrants are these horrific, greedy people.
Ustedes pueden aceptar mi negocio o aceptar las consecuencias. Plata o plomo.
So you would be considered white, in my opinion.
You the blackest one in this room.
I think so.
And what happened was his mama got pregnant on the other side of the border. And then a few hours before, just before it was time for him to pop out, she jumped across the border and let him fall on American soil. So he became the anchor baby. You don't call him the anchor baby for nothing. Amazing.
We like this anchor baby, right?
Hello, I'm the American Anchor Baby. This is my show. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, on this fine Thursday. Okay, bit of a fire speed show. Let's not call it a fire speed show because I'm actually relaxed. We're taking it easy. It's a bit of a short show today, but it's a pleasure to be with you on this fine Thursday. So thanks everybody tuning in. A little bit of housekeeping and all that. I got a little bit of a show for you. It's gonna be loosey goosey. I got just a little bit of time with you, so I'm just trying to talk about some entertaining things here. Just things here, okay? There's plenty to fill up this block of time I have with you. We got to vacate the studio because we got a cool little taping, okay? We got the Trump on for the little bit of time I'm with you today, okay? So welcome, everybody, 888-775-3773 if you want to jump on the air. You want to get on hold. Got something on your mind, something you want to say. A lot of controversial topics lately. The struggles. So many struggles. What's the struggle? What's the true struggle? Huh? What's the true struggle? Is it race? Class? What is it? What could it be? So many controversial things, right? People are talking about it. quick thoughts on some of these things, okay? So you could call in. What else was I doing here? Housekeeping. Rumble.com/American Anchor Baby. DLive.tv/Gorgonzola. Punchy.tv. Make an account. And, of course, everybody else watching on YouTube and elsewhere. Thanks, everybody. What else here? What else? I feel like I'm always missing something here. Click the like button. Don't be rude. Don't be a rude person. Decorum. Show a little bit of class, just a little bit of house, even just basic house training. Like, at least that. You're at least a civilian in the world, okay? Click the like button. Don't be rude. Come on in. What else? You know, we got to get into some of these things I have for you here in a moment. What's on my mind? Honestly, what's on my mind is JLP's monologue this morning a bit. I think, yeah, that's a little bit on my mind. If you missed it, definitely check it out. Jesse Lee Peterson laying out the history a bit. Just laying out the history for you a bit there. What happened, right? The fight was blacks and whites. And then all sorts of people got added into there, right? Homosexuals, women. And right, what? The inferiority topic came up, right? And all sorts of topics, right? And I was just thinking about callers on my show. I know people joke and all that, but I don't know if people get it. I don't know if people get where I'm coming from, where people here are where I see all the people, all the fellas here at Bond are coming from. Let's just pick on the blacks. Like, I don't know. You guys don't get it, but I was just listening to Jesse, and you know, it's hard to say, right? You look around the world, and it seems like the white man left constitutions around the whole darn world. Let's be straight up. And that didn't quite do it. That ain't quite do it, so to speak, right? All sorts of nations failed. You could call them failed states. What did they do with what was left unto them? So it has to be race, Nick, says the apparition. But how can you say so easily, without when you had decades of a people being roped in with low down people? When you're out there clamoring for equality, it's because you're a low down person, a weak person, inferior. Some Nietzsche guy said that, right? I heard earlier. But anyways, look, it's just so, isn't that the easy way out? Isn't that the cop out? Not to to say, instead of just the doing just the normal right thing, enforce the law, fend for yourself, do what you got to do, self-responsibility if you can't make it, so to speak. Anyways, but anyway, look, it's like race isn't that strong. I don't know if you've noticed that. Race isn't that strong. Look at white people. You could lose so much in a generation. Have we not seen? You could lose so much in mere generations. So it's not that strong. And anyway, so I was just kind of rambling about some of these thoughts about race and all that. And because if you snapped your fingers and you got rid of white people in America, we would have Kamala Harris. I know that's an obvious one, but I feel like that hasn't been said. I think someone brought that question up. We would have Kamala Harris. So what was I saying here? Yeah, check it out. JLP just laid it out. Like, isn't that easy to say? Well, they just can't. You just can't get better. You just can't get better because you haven't even tried. It's been decades. You haven't even tried. But anyways, I just know that anyone can have a good life. I guess that's really where I'm coming from. I know that anyone can have a good life. Really. It doesn't necessarily have to look a certain way, but you can have a perfectly amazing life. You just got to cross that bridge. If you know a bit. Anyways, is it a racial struggle? You know, it's a funny thing about racial struggle. I think it's only that way because the heart is wicked. You know, I was reminded of this quote. Okay, so this has come up a few times on the internet, and I found it interesting, and I went and read this like interview between this Dali. Anybody know about this guy, Salvador Dali? He's a interesting guy. Spaniard. I don't know if was he a true Spaniard? Spanish artist. They say he spoke Catalan. It's like, okay, fancy Spaniards. Okay, you spoke Spanish. Catalan. No, it's a little bit different, you know. It's all fancy. Came from like kings. You speak Spanish. Okay, but anyway, Salvador Dali. Let me move on. He remarked on Karl Marx and stuff. This is like a long time ago, right? But this is kind of like maybe how people thought a little bit back then. Not too unlike today. These fights have continued, clearly. They haven't stopped. The white man's still fighting with each other. No, you have to be not racist. He says on the three men he hated most, Descartes, Rodin, and Karl Marx. Now, the first two, right. The first one's a philosopher. The second guy is an artist. He made this statue, The Thinker. You're familiar with The Thinker? The Thinker. The guy sitting there thinking. You know, he was a bit of a thinker himself, Salvador Dali. He's like, I hated that statue. He hated the guy who made that statue because the author is an abominable sculpture that represents a thinker with his head resting on his hand. In that position, one cannot create, not even defecate. You can only create if you're playing. What was he said, the greatest cuckolds of all time are people like Rodin, Descartes, and above all, Karl Marx. There you have a guy who spent I don't know how many years writing Capital. Everything he said is the opposite of reality. Among other things, he predicted class struggle. There are no classes anymore because they've disappeared. On the other hand, he didn't foresee the true struggle of our time, the struggle of the races, China, Japan, Israel, the Arab world. About those, he said nothing, not a word. But that's not surprising. Karl Marx was a respiratory type of individual. Digestive types are more interesting. You know, you got to unpack that. You might need some time to unpack that maybe. But I found it somewhat fascinating. Somewhat fascinating. But it's race because the world is shallow. Don't you think? But it would be, how do you put this? Even more shallow to deny that the world is wicked in that way, right? It's racial because the heart is wicked, but look at Israel. Look at the Palestinians. What is the motivator here? Like what the Indians and the Pakistanis right now? The Arab world, the Jewish world. This is a religious, racial, all that thing. What a mess. Is that maybe the folly of the whites a little bit? You know, forcing anti-racism in a sense. Forcing, right? Knowing maybe how shallow the world is to divide like racially in that way, but yet trying to force them out of that, forcing them into a society, an elevated society they could not operate in. I don't know. I'm just rambling a bit. Honestly, I think you could overcome all that. You're in a white society. It's like, you're just a stranger in a strange land. You could just overcome that. Just be an individual. Isn't that amazing? It's like a weird superpower. Anybody know what I'm talking about? It's like a weird little superpower. You're feeling like you can't, you don't fit in, you feel like you can't do this, and you're just like, you know what? Let me just not do that. Let me be an individual. And suddenly, you could do what's right in front of you. And then the next thing, it's kind of like a superpower. It's kind of like not caring. You ever just decide to not be depressed? Something like that. But you can't just decide not to be depressed. It's a clinical diagnosis. I'm telling you, it's a bit of a superpower. But anyways, race. Race, whatever. I got something interesting for you here. What else I want to say? I got this segment here on marriage. It says marriage rates, but I think it's evolved a bit. So we're just going to take it loosey-goosey here. I don't know what I even have in store for myself because this is a little bit more. It started off with this thread here on marriage rates. You see this? Americans married by age 30. And that's just been changing. 1975, women and men under the ages of 30, or 30 and under, were marrying at these rates, right? 91%, 81%. And that's just been plummeting. 2025, you get 25% of women and 16% of men are married by the age of 30. I don't know what to make of it, but that was I put this down here on a thread here for marriage rates. And there was someone that responded to this thread. I may have heard stuff about this, but here they posted a nice little graph and everything here for you. U.S. Census Bureau. Now, this person is saying non-marriage rate decline, largely a non-white phenomenon. Bretton Woods period was unique era in American history. I feel like a bunch of that flew over my head. I know that this has to do with finance. Bretton Woods, didn't they come up with like some international monetary system? But this graph here, you know, you hear maybe even Jesse. I've definitely heard Jesse mention it maybe. Marriage rates of the blacks. At one point, you know, so this you're seeing what you're seeing is a graph, right? 1900 all the way to 2030. So it's like projected a little bit, I have to assume. But this is the decennial census, 1900 to 1990, and then the American Community Survey with 1 year estimates. And they're just right? They're just tracking marriage rates in between the demographics. You get black and whites, the little blue line and the red line, orange line, pretty much lockstep with each other for decades in 1900. At one point, that little orange line goes below the blue line, so I'm pretty sure that denotes the black marriage rate. You know, there was this is showing the percentage of unmarried adults. So the lower the line, the more adults were married. So this low point with the black marriage rate was a higher marriage rate than the whites. Of course, now you see how far this has gone. And but you're getting like data 2010, 2020. You know, I've been hearing that for a while, but it seems to have maintained in a similar way. And then you look at whites now, it's kind of gotten worse for everybody. This Ben Braddock individual is making a certain claim that's largely driven by non-whites, but, you know, that's just like a claim here on X. So it's probably multifaceted. You maybe would have to ask someone else, but I found it interesting nonetheless about marriage. But what else about this? Marriage. Is it just me? Look, check this out. Now, how am I going to put all this together? Let me move all this. This is a loosey-goosey show. Loosey-goosey Thursday here. Maybe Bob out of Atlanta might have something to say here about this since I got you on hold, sir. Are you all, Bob, Atlanta, you there?
Yeah, what are you talking about here?
Well, I just kind of kicked it off here with this graph on marriage rates. It looks like you wanted to maybe speak on that.
Yeah, what is the NH white?
You said, yeah, whites, blacks.
Yeah, what's a NH white?
That's a good question. You know, I'm not sure what a NH, non-Hispanic, I think is what that might be. Non-Hispanic.
Oh, non-Hispanic white, non-Hispanic black.
Right, because sometimes over the years, in various surveys, Hispanics have been counted as black or white in various ways, but they're making it clear this distinction is non-Hispanic whites and non-Hispanic blacks.
So this is the marriage rate?
The graph we're looking at right now is actually the percentage of unmarried adults. So the higher the higher the number here in this graph means the higher the percentage of unmarried adults.
Ethnicity 1900 to 2020.
Yes, sir.
So they're saying that more Hispanics or more blacks, non-Hispanic blacks are married?
They're saying that the non-Hispanic blacks have the highest rate of unmarried adults, followed by the Hispanics, followed by the non-Hispanic others, and then followed by the non-Hispanic whites, which seem to have maintained all the way from 1900. It says they were 39% unmarried adults, and then all the way to these days, they seem to have only increased up to 45%.
Yeah, pull it back up and see when the blacks started. When was that? That was back around when the civil rights come into effect. When
it starts getting crazy, it starts going up 1940, but it starts really going up 1950, 1960, and it just goes and goes. It totally separates from the other lines, really, like 1950, and continues this upward trend.
Yeah, the black community, the women kick the men out of the house to have the government be the daddy to the kids. That's when that happened. White people have pretty much stayed married. A lot of them are falling away from because we don't have God in the world anymore. People don't have God in their life.
You're saying that's the cause of this across the board?
Well, that's the cause of all evil across the board is because we're pushing away from God. The leftist liberals are trying to push away with the transgender, where men can be women and women can be men. They're getting away from God. We're in a battle. We're in a battle of good against evil. You better pick a side because when the good Lord comes back, and I'm talking about Jesus Christ, when he comes back, everybody's knees gonna bow, and you're gonna have to confess and live up and face your sins for what you did while you were on this earth. So people need to get right with the Lord. That's what I tell people all the time.
I hear you, Bob. I think you might be right about that on the civil rights. I mean, that whole thing seems to have messed up a bunch of things. You can't get better if what motivates you is really blaming others. But
that's what they've been taught to do. The black community has been taught to blame everybody else except for themselves for what's going wrong in their community. If we had some strong black people in the black community to stand up and put a stop to this crap, the black community would straighten out. But they don't want to do that because they're getting so much money from the federal government to keep living in that. And then you got the school system that's teaching them that you're put down because of the white man.
I find that all races, all people blame, and they have their own issues, blah, blah, blah. But have you found any race and any group, besides blacks in the world, in your life, that have that sort of justification in life?
Yeah, Jews.
Fair enough, Bob. Well, sir, I appreciate your commentary, man.
Jews do the same thing. They use
Not trying to run you off, but you were saying you
are. You are. You don't want to talk about it either. Yeah.
No.
First Amendment.
You're letting me. You set me up for the humor there, but I thought you were done. Please finish your statement. I am trying to move a little fast because I don't have much time today, particularly.
But I'm saying,
finish your statement.
But what I'm saying, that's true. Jews use the same thing. They use it as a shield, same way black people use the victimhood of slavery. Is the Jewish people use the Holocaust in the same exact way. Totally. And you can't say anything about the blacks or you're called a racist. And if you say something about the Jews, you're called an anti-Semite.
And it's like, that's why lately I've been nitpicking and pointing out where there's hate, and there's all sorts of people just not even thinking about what they're saying and just teaming up with like Palestinians and just like throwing out anti-Israel Jewish stuff, and I'm not really thinking. I think that's coming from anger and hate. But people think, oh, now I'm teaming up with. I'm not teaming up with anybody. I don't team up with the world. The world is messed up, and all people who use isms, hate, blame, victimhood are low people that are weak, right? So that includes anti-Semitism and all that. So I wouldn't team up with the world in that way either. So thanks for the point, sir.
Look at what's going on in Israel in the Gaza over there right now, and they bring up October the 7th. Okay, so you're telling me one day this happened, and they say like 1,200 people got killed. How many people have been killed since October the 7th? You killed 40 to 60,000 people over there.
See, this is where it gets. You're saying you're just like adopting. It's one thing to say like, okay, like anti-Semitism. It's like anybody who's pushing this racism, Holocaust, blah blah blah, victimhood stuff. You're using that as a cudgel to bash people over the head. I'm not with that. But it seems to me like all sorts. It seems to me like all sorts of people are so quick to make, I don't know, these conclusions about this war that's happening all the way over there. And why is it that overnight? And I don't know if this really happened to you. Maybe you've been talking like this forever. But it seems like overnight, everybody just adopted the Arab position. Like, well, look at how many they've killed, dude. Do you know that these people like hate each other and the Arabs are like barbarians, man, and maybe the Jews are too in some ways, but these people are like they want to. If we had bombers on our southern border, we would get rid of them and we would not care.
No, we didn't. We had bombers on our southern border, and Joe Biden let them walk across. If you had somebody come into your house and kick you out, you'd be pissed off too. That's what the Palestinian people are mad about.
Anyways, man. Hey, guess who else is mad about it? The Indians with America. But hey, how do you feel about that?
I think this is what I think.
What about the Indians? And what about the Indians your ancestors took the land from? What do you think about that?
My ancestors took the land from the Indians?
Yeah.
Who did the Indians take the land from?
Oh, well, now the argument's different, right? Now it's like, it's like, hold on, let's talk about it, you know. Oh, the Indians, they took it from each other. Those are savages. They were fighting each other. Guess what the Jews say about the Arabs? Guess what the Jews say about the Arabs?
Did the Indians fight back when we took their land?
Say again? Yeah, they did.
Okay, same way the Palestinians are fighting from the Jews taking their land.
But you don't have the same like standard. You're not applying the same standard to the Jews than you are to yourself. I am applying the same
standard. You're not applying the same standard. You're saying
in what way? You might be right. Let me know in what way.
You're saying we took it from the Indians and we were bad, but it's okay for the Jews to take it from the Palestinians.
No, I wasn't saying that. I'm saying I think the white man took it from the Indians and that was awesome, and I think that's fine.
Think that was good?
Yeah, I think that's fine. They won. That's not even fair to say they just took it from the. That's not even fair. We're just crudely summarizing history for this conversation, to point out the unfair, in my opinion, standard you're placing at this, because here you've sided with the Palestinians, like, oh, they're just these poor people that just got their land taken from them, but you're totally leaving out. And I'll let you respond here. But you're totally leaving out how the Europeans who had won World War, dude, the whole world went into a war. The white people won, and they decided to carve up that part of the world the way they saw fit. What are you going to say? It's the same way the Americans saw fit to carve up America. They won.
Every war that America has been in has been provoked by the Jewish.
That's a different topic. See, you want to go to something else. And you know what? That's a fine thing to maybe explore or whatever, but why are you going somewhere else now? Now you're sounding like a communist Palestinian, blah, blah, blah. Something else.
I'm telling you who started the war.
No. That's a different topic about who started the war and who's starting this and that war. I'm asking you about the unfair standard, siding with the Palestinians that it was stolen land, but you don't have the same standard on the so-called stolen land of America, which I'm glad they stole.
But listen, I'm not siding with the Palestinians, because the ones that went in and did that junk on October the 7th, I agree with getting rid of them people. The Hamas. But you can't tell me that to bomb Gaza to the ground is because you're killing Hamas, because you're trying to tell me.
But who's asking you to justify that? Who's asking you to justify all those nitty-gritty details?
Everybody in America that's controlled by AIPAC that are saying
we're Back it up. Who's forcing you to justify everything Israel is doing and burning this much and this much bombing? Like, who is? I don't understand why. Who's forcing you to justify that and be okay with it?
I'm trying to tell you who's trying to do that. The Jewish people that control America that if I say something against Israel and what they're doing, I am labeled an anti-Semite because I'm calling out what they're doing as wrong.
Well, that's different than what we're talking about here. You're saying,
no, you
why do I have to justify?
Well, you just asked me who was making me.
Right.
You asked me who was making me say that.
Yeah.
And I told you the Jewish people that control America's Congress and Senate, AIPAC, that sends my money to Israel to bomb kids.
And you're not okay with that level with our government. See,
no, I'm not.
See, that's a fine. See, that's a fine point. I think that's a fine point. I think something that is in the realm of debatable things. You know, you're leaving my purview a little bit here, but as an American citizen, it seems to me like you should be allowed to have this question. Personally,
but again, I'm not allowed to question anything against Israel, or I'm labeled an anti-Semite.
But here's another thing, though. Here's where I'm coming at you from. Here you are on my show speaking freely. Again, you bring up what you're really bringing up is the point of, well, as an American citizen, you want to have a certain say versus your tax dollars, and you're expressing that. But you're also kind of saying I asked you a kind of more simpler thing if you really pay attention. You asked me, you said to me that it sounded like the world was forcing you to justify something. It's one thing to not be okay with the tax dollars going there. But in reality, there's no one forcing Bob from Atlanta to be okay with that. That's what the government is doing. That's what players in our government are doing. That's what the world is doing. The world is a crazy place. You can have your thing about the taxes and make that known should you need to, right? It's your right. But personally, spiritually, no one's forcing you to justify that. You see how you're not the world? You're an individual, Bob. You don't see that?
You don't see how our government is telling us what we've got to do, and every one of them has an AIPAC handler?
That's different. I'm asking you. I just
it
made
ain't different.
No, it ain't different. It is because you're just in the particular thing I just asked you. You went somewhere else. I'm just saying. Don't you know you're an individual? You don't have to justify what your government, or even your government does. And
don't I have the right to say something?
That's different. No, that's fine. You can say something. You can say something. Here you are saying it's so-called.
Most places, and that's what I don't understand.
So-called.
Most places, when you talk about this stuff on here, they will ban your ass for talking anything about Israel.
Cool it with the cussing, but that's. I've heard that, and look, there's even individuals people can point to, individuals who was like that's super banned, and you can maybe say it was because of that. But yet, and allow me to play the devil's advocate here, because I'm not trying to totally derail what you're saying there. There's people banned for things you're not allowed to say. Let's be real. But hold on here for a second. In 2025, it seems to me like everybody is criticizing the Jews. It seems like everybody has every right to. It seems like it's gone mainstream. So I don't see the superpower. Maybe there were Jewish contingents in this area in Hollywood, and because they're liberals in YouTube and they're up there and they're like, you know what, I don't like this channel. Like maybe, but hold up here. In today's 2025, it seems like everybody's criticizing the Jews. It's like mainstream. What are you talking about?
Well, that's because a lot more people have awakened to what's going on. Jews have been kicked out of 109 countries through history.
Again, going somewhere else.
No. Well, hold up. So
that's another topic. You still want to go somewhere else? That's a different thing. I'm not saying you can't go to that. It's just that I'm doing a show and I'm trying to have a conversation, right? And you want to go to another topic? That's not fair. Let's do one topic, man. Right?
I'm just trying to show you who controls the world.
And you didn't answer one piece of evidence I had against that. Here it is in this world controlled by the Jews that it seems like everybody is allowed to criticize them all of a sudden. Maybe something changed. I don't know, but. Answer that. Let's start at zero because you're saying they control the world, but it seems like everybody can criticize them right now.
So you think everybody can criticize them right now because they're trying to pass laws where you can't say anything
right? I don't like that, but isn't that proof that it's not a total control? That's what I'm getting at.
Well,
it's not as total as you think.
Didn't they just pass a law down there today?
I think so, something, or they're attempting to. Yeah, I don't like it, but you're overblowing it. It may be, and I think I have a little bit of evidence.
I'm not overblowing it.
And you haven't responded to that evidence. You want to go to 109. You want to go to 109, but I'm just saying I think I have a little evidence against a little bit at least. It's not total. Here it is. Here it is that you're allowed to criticize them. Here it is that we're talking about these laws, etc. Don't you agree? It's not total.
Let me ask you, what's your ethnicity?
You still won't respond. Now you want to ask about my ethnicity.
No. Ask your question again. I'll answer. Ask your question.
Don't you see that as not total with some of the little evidence I've given you?
No.
So you're just ignore that. It's total Jewish control. So I just showed you an example where it's not total Jewish control.
What, because you're allowing me to speak about it on your show?
It's not just me, man. Have you been on the internet?
I know Nick Fuentes can't go on anywhere. But
have you been on the internet? Nick Fuentes is allowed on YouTube lately. You know, it's like...
I'm on there all the time.
Let's be real.
I'm on there all the time, and I know I have been taken off of YouTube for my views, for saying things about the Jews. For saying something about the Jews, I am taken off because my free speech...
Who knows what you said, man?
Same thing I'm saying to you.
Oh, so you trying to get me banned?
No, I'm not trying to get you banned.
I don't know why.
That's what I said.
I don't think you are.
I thought it was weird that you was allowing me to say it.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know better, and you should be a little bit more.
Most places
what
you
the?
Can listen.
Let's just stop
America.
Then.
You should be able.
I don't think we said anything controversial though. Personally, I think we've been.
But this is
clear.
America. I should be able to say what I want to say as long as I'm not calling for harm for somebody. I should be able to say what I want to say.
Well, personally, I don't even think you've said anything that's like not YouTube friendly. So I'm just being straight up with that. But anyways,
saying this, if I wanted to say I don't believe in the Holocaust, I should be able to say that without being criticized.
Right, it's a free speech thing. You've made that clear, but
yeah.
You know, you've made your point, man, and I appreciate it. Look, last thing you want to say?
You don't know who this
is? Take care. I think this. Oh, listen, man. This is Jamie. Listen, and I don't want you to talk about your channel and all that, but how come you called my show just to promote your channel?
I did it when we got through with our call, man.
But that's not right to do, man. Don't do that. And maybe you didn't know better, and so I'm not going to fault you for that. But that's not how.
Yeah,
that's not the proper way.
Don't ban me.
That's no, yeah. And maybe I was wrong for that. But straight up, maybe you didn't know better. It's not proper, you know, because we're just the caller line is for people to call for questions on my show, not to advertise their show, right? If you wanted to work together, you should reach out to me personally.
Your show on my show. I'm playing your show on my show.
Well, let me just say, Jamie, if you wanted to work together, just reach out to me personally. It might be great. radio@jesseleepeterson.com.
radio@jesseleepeterson.com.
Yes, sir.
I'll shoot you an email.
Thank you, man. And appreciate your call. Man. Super interesting. Call me again.
Have a good one.
Take care. Nice. Right on, Jamie. You ain't so bad. You ain't so bad, Jamie. I don't know why I'm meandering around here, rambling about. It's just because I found this interesting, okay? Race and Dali and la, la, la. But I don't know why I'm meandering around like as if I had all the time in the world. I should honestly just get to these controversial videos and moments. You guys are going to love it. Oh, my gosh. And I shouldn't poo-poo it. But let's just get to the spice, right? To the meat, to some of the videos and stuff that at least would grab your attention. Like, how should we do this? I was talking about marriage a bit, and this isn't the little marriage blurb I have here. It's just this notion, this overarching, how do I put this? Vibe of married people, marriage that I notice. And it's basically this. I just suspect, and this is not that groundbreaking. I think we all know this. But I just suspect the vast majority of married people do not like each other, like not even a little bit. Even the ones that like are pretending. That's why I wouldn't want to do it, right? If I'm doing it, it's because either it is or I truly believe, like, call me a fool, that I got somebody, right? Somebody that gets it. But, man, it's just a suspicion, right? Don't you see it? Like,
I've been cheating on
everybody. So many of these couples, they do not like each other. And it's hard to even put in words sometimes because they'll say they love each other, right? They're saying they love each other. A Christian husband's response to cheating.
I've been cheating on
him for 3. This is a Christian woman. She's went on someone else's show or her own show, I forget, to talk about the cheating in her marriage.
Been cheating on him for 3 years.
with his best friend. We had 2 kids, 3 and 6 years old. And he could have walked away, should have walked away, could have. And when all this came out, and I hid it for 3 years in the church, when all of this came out, he looked at me and listen, a good therapist knows your feelings are valid and you can feel all of those things. He was mad. He was hurt.
The music.
He was confused. He was disoriented. All those things were still true. None of that was underscored or not a part of his experience.
Right. Not you, modern gentleman. Right? We'll get to you, modern gentleman. Don't let me forget.
So a part of his experience because he had been submitting and surrendering to the Lord so faithfully for so long.
Oh, man, this hurts.
Was he literally looked at me, and all I expected him to do was exactly what every man had done in my life, my dad, all these other men, was to leave. And instead, he looked at me and he said, Casey, I don't know how to not love you. That is when Jesus became my Lord.
That's deep. That's deep. And I'm look, I can admit that maybe I am the immature one who's yet to see, and I'm really not being that sarcastic with this, the fullness of life, whatever it is. You know, I'm unmarried myself. It's just fear talking, maybe. I can admit that. And forgive your wives, right? Doesn't the Bible have a story of a man who forgave his wife like a whole bunch of times and she was, I think, cheating on him like a whole bunch? Something like that, right? Right? But this particular, when I see this video, I see a woman that does not like her, like hates him. Is that just me, or am I being immature, folks? Am I being judgmental? Or am I seeing it for what it is? Like to even do this podcast, to even do this whole thing. Let me, I don't know. It's on a front. What is this? This shouldn't even be on video. This should not be on video. Maybe that's really what I'm commenting on. That's really the affront. What's egregious is this being on video expresses a disrespect. And I think of wanting to put that out there. But maybe not so much the forgiveness, right? That's good. That's good, right? It's just, you know, when the woman leaves, when the divorce happens, when the man cheats, the woman destroys. And it just speaks to a difference going on. What's happening in the marriages and all that. The women are evil and the men are weak. Anyways, what was I getting at? Oh, man, look at the time. I got to go. What am I doing here? Messing with this time? I should have just gotten to these calls. Maze and Mark, I should have just gotten to you guys. Add another exciting video. We literally don't have the time. I have to vacate right now. So I have to just cut off short what we're talking about. No tying it up with a bow. Look, let me just let it go. I must vacate the studio, folks. We're going to finish it all up. All the things we started, amazing conversations, super chats, and everything else. We're going to get to it all tomorrow. More American Anchor, baby. Friday style, so make sure you like and subscribe so you're following what we get into tomorrow, okay? So for now, I must go early. The studio must be vacated. Take care, folks. Until tomorrow, I will see you there. Take care.